Hello, I'm Nick Dreesen. I'm the founder and president with Families United Action Network. And throughout the campaign trail, we have sent out to the candidates a candidate questionnaire. And normally we would be at their events and trying to meet with them for coffee and et cetera, et cetera. But this year has kind of changed the name of the game. And so we have been trying to do still the candidate questionnaires, ask the candidates to send in a video and meeting with them when possible. But we have recently begun a Zoom segment that we're calling Meet the Candidates, where we at Families United Action Network have gotten a few candidates to take some time out of their day and out of their campaign to join us to let us ask a few questions. And personally, I think this is a much better approach than just filling out a questionnaire anyway, because this way we get to actually know each other, as well as you, the voters, get to hear their responses as well. Now, reminder, Families United Action Network does not endorse any candidates. We are a 501c3, but we are able to just bring you this information and ask the questions. Our mission is to preserve and protect children and families through repairing current structures and organizations by creating solid foundations for Iowa families and the next generations. So with that, I am going to bring in Aaron Sewell, who's running for Iowa House District 42. I'm not quite sure. Are you still there? It looks like you might have froze on me. Aaron, are you still?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Okay.
some network trouble going on my end too. So hopefully we get through this pretty smoothly.
Okay. So, Aaron, again, you're running for House District 42. Please go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to run.
Absolutely. Well, I live here in West Des Moines, the Valley Junction area of West Des Moines. I've always loved this community, and I always had a heart just for serving people, helping people, just passionate about trying to make life better. And oftentimes I find myself getting emotionally invested in trying to help others' lives that I just get real worried and sad because of like, man, there's not much I can do. So whenever I can, I try to find ways to serve and help. So I ran for West Des Moines Parks Board back in 2015 because I just wanted to reach out to the community and be involved with the government, with local government, and be able to, it's really fun just to reach out to people, talk to people, and ask them what issues are important to them when it comes to parks and recreation. And it's my second term on that board, and it's just been really real joy to help serve people there and help bring government closer to them and bring their local leaders accessible, make it more accessible for them. So during that time, I became a full-time teacher teaching fourth grade. And I really became to understand just how much education and community and economy and everything all just works together when we're trying to move our students forward and our communities forward. And I was pretty happy teaching, being on Parks Board, raising my daughter. She's now 14 months old, but some people back in February, March, people kept nudging me saying, we think you'd be a good candidate. We think you'd be a great representative for this community. And I thought, I'm always looking for opportunities to serve. I feel like I have a message that can reach every person, not just one corner of people, not just one set of registered voters. I feel like I can reach and represent all sorts of different aspects and perspectives. So I need to give it my best shot and give people someone they can really believe wants to serve them. So that's how I ended up in that race. Winning my primary was a huge honor because I ran authentically as myself, not as a set of bullet points, not as someone trying to push agendas. I just said, this is me. This is why I want to help people and serve people. And it's just having that support has been really encouraging.
Wonderful. Well, again, we thank you very much for taking the time to join us tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you just got your baby to sleep, as you mentioned, so hope, fingers crossed, that it stays asleep there. I got a 1-year-old, is it 1.5?
Yeah, she's a year and 2 months, so 14 months old.
Okay, wonderful. Well, congratulations on that. We know how exhausting and wonderful that all can be, especially while trying to work and run a campaign at the same time. So, Aaron, do you have a website, or what's the best way if people want to contact you, donate to you, or just learn more about you? How would they reach out to you?
Yeah, my central hub, as I think of it, is my website, www.sewellforiowa.com, and that has all my social media links, a couple of videos, donation links, information about me. So that's my central connection to all my other accounts and ways to follow and get connected.
Okay, and that is FOR or the number 4?
FOR. Great
Okay,
question.
so
So
that would
Sewell,
be
Sewell, FOR,
yep, like you just said there,
IOWA.
SEWELLFORIOWA.com. So if anybody is looking to learn more about him, get involved with his campaign, we will mention that again later. Jumping in, but now you've had a chance, I believe, if I'm correct, that you have already even actually answered our candidate questionnaire. So I'm pretty sure you've seen the questions here. We're asking the same questions to all candidates. I guess we'll just kind of start with especially being out of school, I'm assuming the answer is yes, but can you just kind of tell us if and what background that you might have dealing with these issues of family law reform, custodial division, family separation, child protective service involvement, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been teaching about 5 years. 3 of those years was under a substitute authorization license from the state. And during that time, just my interactions with, especially with lower elementary, I realized how much I loved trying to give back, trying to connect and make these kids feel like they matter and feel like that someone cared about them. And I learned so much, when you take time to just sit and talk with kids, they say some of the randomest things. They say some of the things that is meaningless to them, but when you have perspective and experience, you can understand things going on in their lives and some of the frustrations their parents might be going through just through some of the offhand things they say. And you start to learn, you work with kids who have different family makeups, whose families are going through some sort of split, some sort of divorce, some sort of marriage to a new person, and the kids are bouncing between houses, or the parents are talking about how they're frustrated because of a legal process keeping them away from their child, my student, their child, and it's it's it hurts as a teacher because you just want to put all the pieces together. You just want what's best for this kid, and the parents for the most part want what's best for the kid, but things often get messy, and there are situations where parents get along really well. I've had students where parents just say, yeah, we just didn't work out, and those are great. But there's a lot of times students come to school with heavy loads on their shoulders, and you start to just chat with them and you start to realize there's stuff going on outside of school that's affecting them. So it's given me a lot of perspectives just into not only students' lives but family backgrounds and things that go on in our communities that we don't give enough attention to when we're trying to support kids. We're trying to support moving our state forward. We need to make sure that we're helping build strong families, which doesn't mean the families are always united, but it means that they're involved and supported and feel like they're safe.
Okay, and do you feel that those, or rather, do you have any, rather than just the outside the window, do you have some personal connection to this as well of, whether a story within your family or anything? You don't have to share the story. I'm just wondering of how deeply you connect with some of these issues that we're working on.
Yeah, my own family. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. I have 9 siblings, 8 brothers, 1 sister. And our parents, people often, when I tell them that people ask, "Are you guys are all from the same parents?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, we are." And they've been together and loving each other for 25 plus. Oh yeah, way more than 25. My oldest brother's about 35. A long time. um, uh, and we've been blessed just to watch and grow that, be in that environment, and we need that environment being of an African American kind of cultural background. But we've been, just blessed to see and learn from them, and they've actually homeschooled us most of our elementary years, all of us, and imparted us kind of these deep values of being together and caring for one another and caring for others. So I don't have any personal in my personal family, and some of my extended family, like cousins, aunts. Have seen marriages and splits and kids. I have been able to observe that, and been a part of helping those family members still feel, as much as we can, feel like they're connected to the extended family and that we love and care for them. So I have a little insight when it comes from outside my own family, but when it comes to extended family, there is some.
Okay. Now, again, you said it yourself, but yeah, I hope you know how blessed you are to come from such a strong family to core like that. And from the little bit that I've known you, you've very successful at everything that you do. Would you say that those strong family roots and strong family values would be something that you can help attribute who you are today and the success that you have?
Yeah, having a dad want to be involved with us and being able to be involved with us day in day out. I can look back and reflect like, oh man, my dad was right, and having a mom who was with us every day and who checks in on us even now, and just watching them work together to deal with us. When we watch them fight, we watch them argue, but they would always do it, and we could tell it was out of love, it was out of frustration, and they would take time to come together and discuss, and we could watch all of that, and we could learn so much, that I feel like has affected me, especially in just the support they've given me as a child and now as an adult.
Yep, stronger roots create stronger branches, and you are one of the benefactors of that. Many people, obviously, have had split branches or roots removed, and those are kind of the issues that we're trying to deal with here. We try very hard to preserve the sanctity of marriage and the preservation of family, but there are obviously many circumstances that just isn't going to be possible for some of these people. And so how we can still be able to get them that root system and the nourishment, the support to have every opportunity to be a success are some of the things that we are after. And we don't claim to have the answers. We're trying to just kind of figure out what your responses are to some of these things. So I'll just get started with some of the questions. And I guess one that I hope you don't mind or take any offense to, but you kind of alluded a little bit to as well. So I would ask, based upon the questionnaire and the answers you've seen, do you feel that these issues do affect the African Americans or majority communities in different ways or more ways, or just how would you have? I personally see the different ways myself, so I just want to know how you interpret it.
Yeah, and I strongly feel it affects minority communities more than majority communities. Um, and I do feel like it's a societal, historical issue that's deeply rooted way in our founding. It's not to say we're an evil nation. A lot of people, a lot of legislators and politicians, if they're not ignoring the issue, they're trying to spend our nation's founded on evil things or evil premises. And there's absolutely plenty of instances throughout history of people doing terrible, wrong things to their own cultures and their own one another. But what we need to do is continue moving forward, which I feel like we have done, and trying to figure out what can we do better. And I feel like with everything that's happened this summer, re-highlighting the issues of incarceration, restoration of voting rights, and the minority communities, and we can take a look at that and we see fathers not sticking with their families. We see fathers who don't have the opportunity to stick with their families, the lack of opportunities. And instead of pointing fingers and blaming uh, groups of people, I think we need to do more asking, why is this happening? And really listening, what do you need to be supported in this? How can we help you? What reforms can we make in our legal systems and our police forces, while supporting our police? How can we better help them see that how they can better serve their communities? So we need to listen, take more time to listen and ask questions instead of pointing fingers and saying, "Man, that group's having issues and it's all their fault." It's like, what can we do? How did they get to this point? What can we do to help them?
Yeah, I would agree with that very much. Just listening, communication, compromise, negotiation, especially the compromise and negotiation, are some forgotten words of the English language in the last few years. Um, I also, personally, it just kind of doesn't take much history studying to know that one of the oldest war tactics is, well, control in general, whether it be propaganda materials, etc. But one of the easiest ways to control an individual is to destroy their identity so that you can give them their identity. And when we have so many fatherless homes, so many different children torn away through the child protective services, all these different issues that have compounded, it's very easy to uproot them and to destroy their identity and then try and tell them who you are, that you are what you see on the news, and that's all that you can be, instead of trying to actually put fertilizer on everything, trying to balance everything out, trying to get a good garden all the way around to where everybody is thriving. So I kind of touched on a couple of different issues there, but I would definitely. I guess my next question would, do you feel, obviously there's certain parents, whether it be male or female, that have not been adequate parents. I personally have seen throughout, I think it's gotten better in the last few years, but especially 15, 20 years ago, especially, that there was a minority image of that's going to be a fatherless kid, and that minorities just don't care about their kids, where I don't think that that's what was actually going on. I personally myself, and again, I'm just kind of interview is about you, but I myself saw it as more of the system attacking many people that were either targeted or thrown in jail, that separated those families, that there were other hardships at play that made it more difficult for them to find that nuclear family, a dream suburb image, whatever. And so those things kind of got underplayed, that the system was causing the problem and the image that they were creating. And I was wondering, do you agree with that? Do you feel that, I guess in short, that most man or woman, that they had a child, they wanted to be there, but one way or another, the system and the society made it more challenging than they were able to obtain or knew how to obtain?
Yeah, I would start with going back to the whole how a lot of everything our nation has done, and is trying to move forward from, is it's deep, it's rooted in historical, how history started. And you have plenty of good people who want to do the right thing. You have plenty of people just doing stuff that felt like it was okay to do, and plenty of people just trying to take advantage. So we have, a nation founded on principles of liberty and everything, which is fantastic. It's given so many opportunities throughout the world. And then we also have to recognize, um, as we move forward and as we abolish slavery, there is a huge group of people that's just behind in regards to everything, education, the opportunities they had. They still couldn't vote for a long period of time, minorities and women and property, and were looked down upon, and chased down and murdered and killed. A lot of this under illegal guys were just ignored. And a lot of our issues is, they're just ignored. There's plenty of good people who had fine lives, or, had to felt like they had to focus on their own families and things. And you had a group of people getting not built up, destroyed, not given the tools to build themselves up, which is what I'm trying to promote, is not so much tie their shoes, but make sure they have shoelaces so they can tie their own shoes. So then they can pick themselves up by their bootstraps, make sure they have boots so they can put them on. So it's that whole idea of systemic things that need to be changed. We have groups of minorities of people, and we know poverty doesn't see race or colors. So there's plenty of groups of people who just historically haven't had the opportunities provided, and it's not so much they're not being provided for by the larger society, it's just they're being ignored. They're not given those opportunities to build themselves up, build their own communities up, be a part of the larger community. So we need to spend more, like I said, going back, we need to spend more time listening, being supportive, reaching out, instead of trying to say, well, it's their own fault. They need to take care of themselves. Every person wants to take care of themselves. There's people out there who want to be taken care of, but I honestly believe more people want to find success themselves, achieve that success themselves. But if the doors are being locked or not open when people knock, then how can they find that success? How can they find those opportunities, and find just in an equal manner?
Okay. And it sounds like from your other answers too, that you would agree that the stronger the family roots, is one of the more valuable tools to have to be able to reach those, knocking on the door or whatever the situation might be. Now, there's still situations where others don't understand those doors are locked and they shouldn't be anyway. But we'll go ahead and we're going to just go back onto the questionnaire here. I don't want to go off topic here. When we dive in, maybe kind of again, you've given us your opening comments here. Now, when we deal with family law reform, the judicial system, especially, and even the legislative system, wants to use the best interest of the child system as the default. But there currently is no real definition of the best interest of the child. And so that can kind of just be whatever the judge's mood is in at that day. I guess if you were to define it for yourself, how would you define in the best interest of the child? And also, how would you define in the best interest of the family? And would there be differences there?
Yeah, and those terms, in the best interest of child or family, it's a really vague catch-all term that's unfortunately always goes back to the government, assuming the government knows best for individuals, groups of people, families, kids. And it's a really, really dangerous road to take because we're a lot more diverse as individuals, as people, even, from me to the next African American, from me to the next young Kansas City Chiefs fan. We have so many different things about us that we need to be careful allowing the government to have so much influence over what is the best interest of. And judges, going back to individuals, judges are different from how they experience life, the things they've seen, the education, the backgrounds they've had, and what they feel is their view of justice and what they see their view of best interest. When I think of my students and their best interest, I view it as how can I help them be successful as an individual. I stop thinking of them as 22 kids in my room. I try to meet them individually by name and understand what their strengths, challenges, struggles are, and how can they be, what do they need to succeed? And I feel like that's how we should view all people in society, instead of trying to label them, put them in boxes, try to say best interest of the child. We need to really think is, where are they at? What have they gone through? What do they need? And that can be really hard to come together, especially mainly for government, as what do they need? Because you have to be careful. Which I'm not trying to go on a tangent, but you have to be careful when the government says we know what you need, because there's so many different pockets and communities and backgrounds that need different things. So children need different things. They're going to grow up differently. They had different experiences. So that needs to be flexible. And I think it needs to come back to what is the family situation, how we want the child to be successful. They need to be connected to family as much as possible. They need to have access to parents and to, those who love them and care for them as much as possible. And we need to be careful about, how we define what love is and what care is, as from a leadership perspective. When it comes to best interest of the family, it's, ideally it's keeping that family together. It should be always the first and foremost of any judge, any person, whether it's, some sort of split care. It needs to be focused on making sure that child, has access to that family and is as close to them as they can be, without a biased outside perspective.
Okay. And now, would you, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions that think we all know the answers to. Is there a certain size limit for a family? This isn't China. So in America, do we have a size limit of what defines a family?
Yeah, me coming from a family of 10 kids and 2 parents, and I don't know why there should be a size limit. It's frustrating. It's like you can understand there are, it's things you really have to research to hear about. There are groups of people out there who believe in population control.
Well, yeah, and I'm not trying to travel down those rabbit holes, which we
No,
could still
I'm
talk for
trying. Yeah,
hours
yeah,
either.
I'll try to avoid
I'm
that
kind
too.
of, but as we're circling around to
Yes,
is
sir.
that families come in all shapes and sizes
Yeah, and
and
types.
different backgrounds. And so just echoing what you were saying, that best interest of the child is meeting those individual needs, that not all crops grow at the same rate. And so we need to treat them as individuals, give them that individual care and attention that they need, realize that they, yes, live in the same society or at the same school, learn the same lesson plan, but they're not living the same life or having the same situation as anybody else in the classroom. We are all unique and have our own challenges, struggles, and again, that there is no one size fits all model. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah, and what makes a family happy, feel loved is going to be different from family to family. You don't have to have 3 TVs in the home. You don't have to have a pool in the backyard. Some kids just want someone to ask them how are they doing day in, day out. And so that's where we got to be really careful about using that term best interest and trying to make it one size fit all.
Yeah, I would agree. Would you say, in your opinion, currently is the best interest more of that cookie cutter, one size fits all? You know, you see the standard every other weekend and Wednesday visitation on custody schedule. Is that how you feel that we're currently at?
Yeah, I feel like that's, you know, and unfortunately, that's how someone who is not a part of these individual families can view it. They try to say, this is precedent, this is what I've seen, this is my view of for you, for your case situation, your case situation, and it's a dangerous road to travel because they don't see the long-term impact of that individual.
Yeah. And again, this is why we do the candidate interviews and try and have coffee with them. You can get a lot more than a candidate questionnaire. And again, hopefully this is something that all you, the viewers, and hopefully Aaron as a guy running for office and just trying to do service will all also be able to have more maximum impact on. For if you might just be joining us, again, this is Aaron Sewell for House.com, or no, Aaron Sewell for Iowa.com is the easiest way to get a hold of Aaron. Now, shifting gears just a little bit, now the judicial branch and the Department of Human Services are obviously different departments and they have different, systems and et cetera. But would you be in favor of, do you think that their protocols and oversight are okay, or would you be in favor of more oversight and accountability, both with the judicial system and the Department of Human Services, especially within the Child Protective Services Division?
Yes, I am someone that believes oversight. You know, I have people supervise. I had my principal popped in just to peek in on my class today, unannounced, and just, you know, making sure I'm doing the best for these students. I had parent-teacher conferences the last 2 nights. You know, I talked about how it's important that I'm teaching their kid the way they know their child, you know, best. They get it. They know their kid a lot better than I do. I want to give them tools, but they know a lot better. I have several people supervising, tracking me, keeping an eye on me and the work I do. So I see it. It's important to me that we're always auditing, checking into our programs and our branches and reviewing, you know, what is is there consistency? Is there something that's happening over and over that shouldn't happen? Is there something that can be improved upon, reviewed? You know, I think it's possible to have too many cooks in the kitchen, but at the same time, it's possible to let not have enough investment in something that's really important to so many individuals and impacts so many lives. So yeah, I absolutely believe we can have some sort of improved oversight over these branches.
Yep. And so you've answered the question there is yes, and the way you did so, I was kind of alluded to just the you that I know too of kind of just that personal growth, and so that organizational growth, looking within to improve itself, review yourself. Do you think that those current practices of the police reviewing the police, DHS reviewing DHS, and the judicial system reviewing the judicial system is the best way to go, or should we have an outside review board, say for attorneys or judges? Is there a better way to have full accountability, or is it just, well, we reviewed them and we disciplined them, but the client, yes, we found that a lawyer completely ripped you off and we've disciplined them, but you don't get any money back, you don't get anything else. Where would you go to improve some of those areas?
Yeah, I believe it's important to have some sort of review board, and I really would love to have citizen involvement on these review boards. You know, the people who live in our communities and live in amongst our neighbors and have conversations with our neighbors, be somehow involved with these boards. And it can be difficult because if it's appointed, often people who have influence, whether it's through donations or some sort of government legislative experience, and now they're retired or something, get appointed to these positions, which isn't completely wrong. You kind of work with who you know, but we lose a lot of perspectives and a lot of opportunity to have fresh eyes, fresh thoughts, real experience of people in our communities who are hurt or who can see legislation and judicial issues a different way, a way that a lot of their neighbors see it. So I would love for some sort of review board that involves people in our community who can give feedback, provide thought, and be given some sort of platform, whether it's writing their opinion or their thoughts, that is publicly accessible, because it's really important we keep our government transparent and we keep it within reach of the people they're serving.
Okay. And if elected, would you push for changes such as that, or work with organizations who are working on that to help go for that? Okay.
Yeah, I would work with anyone and any community leaders to make that sort of change happen. And I have trouble seeing why. Well, I can imagine why, but from a moral standpoint, I have trouble seeing why people would fight against that.
Okay. So I hope you have, no, wait, let me back up now. As your district 42, now, does that include Perry?
Does not. It includes most of West Des Moines and Polk County, part of Northwest Warren County area where Cumming, Iowa is in.
Okay, okay. Because I was going to get into a few other child protection service questions, and so obviously Perry, that dealt with the Sabrina Ray, Natalie Finn. There was another one, and we unfortunately have had other children who have fallen through the cracks, and those were the worst case
West Des Moines had a
scenarios.
case as well. Yeah.
Yes, and there are many others that fall through the cracks, but not necessarily to the deathly level, at least not immediate death, but it still can cause enough issues for suicide later or other trauma. But those are other longer discussions. But I'm just shifting gears into CPS, as it's obviously been a bigger topic here in Iowa and gaining momentum all throughout the nation of, are we truly helping these children or not? And that I think everybody knows that there's certain times when if a child's in immediate danger that we need to step in and we need to stop that danger right away. But when we remove them, should that be permanent? Should we be getting to family placement? There's many different questions that come up with that. And so to start, I guess I would ask, under what circumstances do you feel that we should abandon giving up on services and trying to reunite this family? When, if and when, should all rights be terminated, that they're no longer even listed as a parent of that child because they have just crossed a line? What would that line be?
Yeah, if there's evidence of physical or extreme emotional danger to the child or children involved, and a lot of that we could possibly be tracked through a history of who may cause that, cross that line. And we want to catch things before it's too late, but we got to be careful not to pull the trigger too fast and try to swoop into the rescue and when it's a misunderstanding. But if we can find those evidence that they might be in some sort of clear danger, and there's been little progress with the guardians, parents involved, we need to take that next step that as a state, as a community, we don't want to take, and try to remove them from the situation, at least for a temporary basis, while we gather more information and more evidence. And then if we're finding, this is not, we have trouble seeing it getting better, so we need to make this temporary basis a long-term basis. So especially if it's physical, because kids often can't protect themselves from adults. And if even more trickier is trying to catch that extreme emotional damage that can hurt kids long term and create them into some sort of negative parent in their future lives. So it's harder to track that, but it's something we should, be aware of.
Okay. Now, a statement that I've heard from a different legislator one time was a terrible family is better than a great foster care in a child's mind. As a teacher, would you, and I know that there's several ways we can go with that, but just as a teacher, would you, and a parent yourself, would you agree, and a son, would you agree that no matter where you were at, your parents are always going to be your parents and who you love, and so again, disrupting that, even if justified, it could still cause whether abandonment issues or social behavior issues, relationship issues, many different ways that it could manifest. Would you agree with that?
I guess I'd have to, see what is our definition of a terrible family. But because I agree, it can, being pulled from your parents, from your mom, from your dad, can cause long-term emotional damage. But at the same time, if you're getting physically abused, but they're saying sorry every night, then it's the endless cycle of pain that this child's going through, and they might have long-term damage from that just because they didn't know better. So I'd have to, and there's plenty of foster families who provide endless love at the same time. And I hate labeling things. It's like there's plenty of families, if we take foster out of it, who want to provide that love. So we'd have to get into what is a terrible family. And when I hear that word, I think a father or a mother is constantly hitting, assaulting a child every other night, night in, night out. And then they come back and say, yeah, I'm sorry, I was just mad at work. And then it's going to happen again. And it might be off again, on again. And the child grows up thinking it's a normal thing. So,
Yeah, but
but
that's a
I
terrible thing
do
when they
agree.
think that that's the normal too.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree that it should be our last resort. But yeah, we got to also monitor what is a terrible family.
Okay, and so to echo that last question of what, if any, circumstances should they lose those parental rights, you mentioned a couple, especially the abuse in which we should step in. But it sounded like under most, if not all, that you would still see that might be a temporary removal, but the goal would never be a permanent removal. It's to try and repair, if possible. So would you have maybe a time limit on, or an attempt, or just where's the breaking point though, that we've given all we can and you've had all the opportunity and it's time that you are no longer listed as the parent of that child?
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of forgiveness. I know I've just personal choices growing up throughout my life, just yelling at my siblings, shoving my siblings. There's plenty of things I wish I had done differently, and I can't be in each individual parent's minds, perspectives, what they're going through. We can only take what we see and what we're told, and what we can track through historical reports and things like that. So we need to make sure we give that opportunity for reflection, for understanding, because it could possibly have been a frustrating situation. And maybe they didn't mean to, like, there's a report they hit a child. Maybe they were just swinging their hands out wide, gesturing in a heated argument discussion, and the child was running up behind them. They unfortunately got caught. We don't know the entire story a lot of the times. And we got to be careful. There are plenty of fathers who go to jail that were caught in a bad situation. They felt they didn't have many options, and they want to be back with their kids, reunited with their kids. So we need to take time to really understand what is going on in these families' lives. What is the trends happening? What is it? Talk with the child, talk with the parents, talk with the guardians, talk with people close to that situation, and try to get a deep understanding. And it's something I would feel would take months on a temporary basis. It shouldn't be something that's rushed. At the same time, I don't want, if there's a chance of reuniting that child, I don't want them to be gone for too extended of a period. But so hopefully, if it's let's say we started at a month basis where we're interviewing, we're reviewing information, and we're talking with the child, and we're trying to get a clear picture of what's going on. And you have to be careful with kids too. There are kids who are mad in the moment and they just want to get back at something, and they don't understand the implications of what's going on before it's too late. So we have to be, working with kids, we have to be careful to get that clear picture. So I would like to start with some sort of 3 weeks to a month of reviewing and investigating and seeing, do we need to extend it another 2 months to continue to review and investigate, or do we need to start looking at options for a longer term basis and see if there's other extended family that's available? Or is it a situation we need to look at foster?
So a lot more based upon, again, the individual, their needs and their actions that they put forth to obtain those goals. Would you agree with that then?
Yep, oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now, this part alludes to one of our other questions, but it wasn't actually in it. But you had mentioned kind of, whether it be the child's misunderstanding, or was it actually somebody hit, or were they just waving their arms? False allegations. We've seen it a number of different ways in the world lately, whether it be the Kavanaugh trial, the people trying to get an upper hand leverage during a custodial division, a number of different ways. Several movie stars, Johnny Depp is one that comes to mind right off the top of my head, and I'm assuming too that I'm hoping not you personally, but I know that it's something you hear throughout the minority community a lot, is about false allegations. So one, I guess, first question is, do you feel that false allegations and misinterpretations are a large problem that we have that can end up leading to family separations that don't need to happen?
Yeah, it's something that's overlooked because it's not something, it's like, well, I've never experienced it, or I have a friend, I don't have any friends who've ever experienced it. So it's something you read in the news and go, oh, that's terrible. And you move on. When you have, young parents being separated permanently or being sent to jail for an amount of time, and it damages the child's perspective too, where they may know what happened in the moment, and then through all this waiting and legal process and almost being coached to what their perspective might actually be, the story gets lost, and the accusation gains truth through through perception. And perception starts becoming reality when the person who's hurt the most getting involved, whether it's a parent, guardian.
Oh, we froze for a minute. Hopefully we're going to come back. Hoping he's going to come back while he talks about that what he's just saying right there, of it gets in your mind and the coaching. That is something that the World Health Organization has just recognized within the last year as parental alienation, that turning one against the other parent. I just heard you,
Okay.
Aaron. You're back with me? Okay, so yeah, you just heard me say right there that that coaching and all that. The World Health Organization actually in the last year has put a term to that of parental alienation, when you try and turn one parent or child against one parent or the other, and you fill their mind with your version of the truth. Did we lose you? Are you still here, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm here again.
Okay, got you slowed down a little bit. So I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. Now, there was a bill that we sent you in the candidate questionnaire. It is a rather intensive bill. It's a 30-some page bill. I don't expect that you've fully digested that at this point. But the premise of this bill, it got introduced this last year by Senator Mark Sagabart and Representative Jeff Shipley. And the premise is to do much like they did with the child correctional facilities back in the 80s, a bill that was sponsored by Andy McKean, and it again took the correctional facilities away from the Department of Human Services umbrella as its own entity. And we're trying to do something, or propose something similar here with the Child Protective Services. We're not trying to expand government or trying to create a new agency or anything. This would create a new agency, but it's not trying to expand government. It's trying to make sure that those funds do not get lost in the general funds, that we can have proper oversight, proper accountability, and that instead of offering services, that we are fully providing services services, which would be much easier to do as its own agency. And actually, from the parts I get confused on, but Senator Sagabart could explain, is how it actually saves the state money and uses more money that is supposed to already be used for services, not to mention the fact that when we repair these families, when we have stronger roots, we have stronger branches, therefore we have more earners in society rather than more hands out. So again, the devil's in the details, and I'm not expecting that you've waded all the way through that. You might have an objection even just on one line or another, but on the general idea of separating the Child Protective Services from the Department of Human Services, creating as its new service-related agency, rather than, I mean, yes, it still might do removals, but ideally, we kind of personally think that it's kind of a conflict of interest that the same agency doing the removals is the same one doing reunifications, especially when there are federal incentive monies that are tied into that. So we would like to try and again create a fair, balanced way where we can do this, manage the money properly, and have not only the inside personal growth reviews, but that full outside review to keep it honest, especially when dealing with the children and families of Iowa that are the future of all of the other branches of society, whether it be our economy or any other policy. We're trying, that's where our focus is. And so is this an idea you are supportive of? Where are you at on this idea?
Yeah, I'm very supportive of the premise of this and the intentions of this. And if I'm blessed enough to get into legislature and it's a bill that comes across, and I would gladly vote for it and support it. It's the reason we have different countries around the world. It's the reason we have different states around our country. It's the reason we have different cities, all with different leaders. It's because it's easier to manage and be more individualistic and handle what's happening in front of us when it's taken in bites. It's taken in, more situations where we have people who can get that perspective because they're there. So instead of having one big branch trying to do a lot of different things well, it's a lot more helpful to, try to separate them as much as possible. And, not, like I said, we're not adding any duties. We're not, creating anything new. We're just giving more separation or space, more opportunity for them to do the jobs that they need to do. It's why, looking back at local control and things, it's why why most school buildings have several teachers for same grade levels, because we don't have one teacher trying to teach 50, 70, 100 kids. And so we can have several teachers seeing what's in front of them, handling it with what they can, their resources, and doing the best job they can. So I completely support this idea.
So you wouldn't trust your mechanic to do brain surgery and vice versa is kind of what you're
Well,
saying there?
they might be juggling a little bit too much at that point.
Yeah, okay. So we don't know how the election's going to play out, and we don't know, again, lifting a 30-some page bill is a heavy lift on an easy day. So this is something that we look for it to be a long road. We feel that the people have been very supportive, the legislators have been very supportive, but again, DHS itself is the largest organization in the state and in every state, and so there is still much resistance that we've had. So if ever in need, you said you would support this, you would vote for this. Would you be willing again to review all the details and potentially sponsor this if needed as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what my whole focus would be, is making sure I'm serving all sorts of people and serving all people. So any bill that comes across, I'm going to do my best to take my time to read it, talk to people in favor of it, talk to people against it, just to get their perspective and try to better educate myself on it. So yeah, read if it's a 100-page bill and I'm voting on it, I better be doing my job and understanding what's on each of those pages.
Yep, and that's why, again, too, why we want to make these contacts ahead of time, not only to find out who the ones are that are going to say the right things, but to give them the time that if they're really saying they're going to do that, that they can actually read it instead of, oh, you have a vote in an hour, here's a 100-page bill, I've never met you before. We want to let you know who we are now, which part about us, in case those of you who are watching, yes, we are registered lobbyists within the state of Iowa, but every single person and everything we do within our organizations come solely through volunteers. We do still ask for donations to keep our website going and to have events, but we are fighting the true and honest game. We are not in this for any monetary value. We are in this for children and families. So I'm going to shift gear. I'm on the last page of questions here, so we don't have a whole lot left, but we've kind of gone over, you've touched on this a bit, but and you haven't luckily had any personal interaction with this from your direct family, but if there is a custodial division, whether they're married or they're not, if both parents are fit, willing, and able, is there any reason that we should not have shared parenting 50-50, as long as if they're both desiring shared 50-50, is there any reason we should not have that?
No, and I feel like that should be the default position of any judge, where they're trying to understand, do both parents want to take care of them? Do both parents have some sort of plan and agreement and understanding that they equally want to love and care for these children, this child? And I've had parents in my classroom who, like I said, they said, yeah, it didn't work out. We tried to get together, it didn't work out, but we both want what's best for this child. And we're actually, we've worked together, communicate to have what's best. So we definitely should ideally default to that position instead of best interest.
Okay, and well, and we're not trying to change we would like to define best interest,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
currently we're
True.
not trying to change the best interest. But we are, would you agree that a parent who is fit on the every other weekend and the Wednesdays is a fit parent? And if they're willing and able, that they're a fit parent for the rest of the time too?
Yeah, I'd have trouble seeing who wouldn't be in agreement of that.
Okay. And I think you answered this earlier, but I want to verify, make sure this wasn't one of my other interviews too, that currently what we're doing by doing the every other weekend and the Wednesdays as your standard plan, do you feel that that is kind of a cookie cutter?
As a standard plan, is this, are you referring this plan provided by
Uh,
judicial
Yes, on the
or as a,
judicial system, if you're in a divorce,
gotcha.
now, granted, people can go to mediation, they can already come up with their own parenting time plans and they can agree and they can sign off. You don't ever need to see a judge, really. They just need that signature. But on those
Right.
cases that go to court, is there reasons why they no, sorry, I went, where was I go at with that? That it's just,
The 50-50 split Wednesdays and
yes,
weekends.
yes, is that a cookie cutter model?
Yeah, if I see it, if I would want, ideally the parents are communicating and trying to figure out, want them 50-50. And if they're having trouble agreeing on what 50-50 is, then it'd be nice to get some sort of mediator to sort that out. And if all else fails, then unfortunately we have to do some exact weekly 50-50 split. And then I
But
guess
what
you
the
have to get it.
court does currently, do you think that
Yeah, Wednesdays and weekends.
that is more of a cookie cutter, that they just kind of standardize it weekends every other Wednesday when you get in front of the judge usually?
Yeah,
Or,
when that's the last line. Yeah, yes, just like you see houses that look similar, those are cookie cutter homes. That's a cookie cutter plan.
okay. So we have a bill for the last few years. It was been titled Senate File 571. It will get renamed this next year. It also did have a House number this last year, introduced in the Senate for a number of years by Senator Brad Zahn, and in the House this last year by Annie Osmondson. This bill, again, I believe you've looked at it. What it does is it sets up that you would start on even playing field, and unless there is any rebuttable, anything that you want to rebut to say that we wouldn't be equal. If you do have something that you're disputing, then you would prove that with clear and convincing evidence. Now, according to our Supreme Court, our right to to our children should be upheld to the higher standard, which would be the beyond reasonable doubt. Currently, when we go to a custodial court, it is a preponderance of evidence, which is just who tells the best story, who writes the best affidavit. We're kind of trying to just take it up one notch, not all the way to beyond reasonable doubt, but just clear and convincing evidence so that we start on equal. You can dispute for any reason, including I don't like the way that your hair was cut, and hopefully an ethical attorney would stop you from that. But if it proceeded, a good judge would again see through that frivolous lawsuit and say, no, we're going back to the 50-50 default because there's no endangerment to the child. And then if there is endangerment to the child of neglect, abuse, time, distance, whatever, that then is when we go back to see what other means, whether it's terminating one parental's rights, allowing visitation, or limited parenting time with one parent or the other. Still at full discretion of the judge, again, still able to dispute for any reason, but with the default being you made this child together, you should be able to raise this child together. So is that a position that
Yeah,
you would go ahead?
Yeah, so I was just saying I would be in support of a bill like that because being the best storyteller doesn't make it true, and it's that whole perception becoming reality issue again, where it looks like it's true because I see the car crash and it looks like it was this person's fault when really there is other issues and complications involved. This parent has maybe a better education or has better resource advantages or time that allow them to create this or elaborate on this perspective. It shouldn't sway what we can prove. Like you said, just because it tells a good story doesn't make it a true story, a true personal narrative. So it should fall back to, can we prove there is a actual damaging emotional, physical situation with either individual that would tell us we need to scale back how much time they spend with them. If not, then nothing in the plan should change.
Okay. And so when you hear the two proposed models of what we just proposed, that you can dispute for any reason, but if you can't prove that reason, then we're going to assume that you're both fit. Or our current standard, where you have already said is very much of a cookie cutter. Our system has been accused by the opposition of being a cookie cutter system, as they say that we're just trying to assume everybody's 50-50 and that there's just no exceptions for that, which is, if you read the bill, it's not true. We have many exceptions: domestic violence, other violence, neglect, abuse, unwillingness, unwantingness, which some people, as much as I love my kids and I find it hard to believe that somebody would not want their kids, some people don't want it. Other people do want it, but their work schedule doesn't allow for that right time. In your mind, is our proposal more of that cookie cutter, trying to service everybody instead of looking at the individual, or is our current system?
In Families Unite proposal is the one where it has to be proven that it's damaging for
Yes.
that on 50-50 approach.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a flexible approach. That's how all our systems, that's how my classroom works. If something can be proven is not working through the data and research, not just what I see, then I change it. If we can prove families are not better than for 50-50, then we should find ways to change it. So I think your proposed system is not cookie cutter in my mind.
Okay, and that's something I would fully agree with, but we just want to make sure others might see something else that we don't see. So we're just asking the questions here. As a teacher, you also might have a better idea on some of the distance aspects. That's one of the hardest things. You can have two parents that don't even argue that they both deserve the time, but through their division, they end up in different cities and a significant amount of time away. And other than doing homeschooling, which is an option, then that becomes very difficult for the different. I think the children still can learn to adapt to it, but it becomes more difficult from the education standpoint and the teacher standpoint if I only have them either 6 months or every other week. Would you, this something we're still kind of grasping at straws trying to figure out some answers. What would you see as to be some paths of how to maximize time with each parent while not diminishing in educational value if distance is a factor?
Yeah, and I've unfortunately seen a lot of situations where this scenario comes in. I've had students of my own whose parents were split, and one parent lives in one town outside the metro, and one parent lives in the school district, and the kids spend all their time in the district. Which, if we can get kids in a, whether it's public school, private school, homeschool, if we can get them in a consistent educational setting for the school year, preferably, um, that's what I would feel is best for that student. But I also have had co-workers, it hasn't happened in my own classroom, but co-workers who a student didn't show up one day. Um, and then at some point along the year, they learned that the parents were having a dispute, and the student was enrolled in another school in another district. We just, found out months into the school year. So my heart breaks. It's like, oh man, that now that kid's gotta, he's been in our school for a while. He's got to figure out a whole new system. His teacher's got to figure out, the things that make this person tick. So if we can get them agreed to a set situations, I said at minimal for the school year, preferably, and we've had school districts have had kids dropped in the last month of the school year, which makes it extremely interesting. It's preferable, but we know that it's not a perfect world, so we
Yeah,
gotta
and that's
work
another one of the
around
things that can be used as a weapon of just moving the school districts, et cetera, there. And again, it's the children who are mainly hurting, not only from the obvious of losing the parent, but losing all their friends, having a whole new curriculum that they might not be used to, even if it's the same stuff taught differently. And so we've learned a lot, I think, in the last few months with COVID that we can adopt different teaching styles. We have different homeschool programs, we have remote learning of various styles, and we still have the in-person average style. Do you think that it would, for the sake of stability and the educational purposes, do you think a curriculum could be created that, let's say that a child lived in Iowa City and in Des Moines based upon their parents, that we could have build curriculum to where we can still teach those children without adjusting where they're at, or they're feeling behind or feeling shocked, where it can become their new norm. I mean, for most children, when they're at mom or dad for a week on or off, they've developed their routine. They still have their different toys, their different schedules. Is that something we can do with schools, or is that going to discuss or to cause more disruption to that child's life?
Yeah, I guess the first I would say it's something that's constantly being attempted through Common Core curriculum and what's adopted as states where they take a version of it, the National Common Core, and we have Iowa Core, and it's a set of standards that school districts across the state are trying to have different grade levels meet those different focuses. And then the difference comes in where my school district, Ankeny, might be teaching earth science at the beginning of the year, but another school district might be teaching earth science, maybe not even an emphasis on science, but they're teaching parts of the standard at a different time of the year. I've had kids drop into my classroom at midway through the year, and it's like, oh, I've already learned all about the division strategies. I'm like, oh, okay, great. um, but that's the tricky part. But as you alluded to earlier, there's plenty of bad things with COVID-19 pandemic. but there's a lot of things we're learning about our society and about our educational system that I really hope we hold on to uh, one day when I hate to say new normal, when we fight this and figure out how to, how to move forward as a society through it all. Um, I hope that we hang on to a lot of these things. We have virtual parent-teacher conferences. I think that could be a huge benefit. If parents can zoom in from, I have a mom who zooms in from work because she has really limited hours or works a lot of hours and can't get away from work. Have parents zoom in from running errands in between jobs. There's a lot of opportunities. We have kids zooming in from home because they have a cold or a flu, or they're signed up for online school for part of the school year. There's a lot of opportunities we need to hang on to that can help in these situations where families live in different areas, and that can provide the parents can still have the kids for the times they agree to or that's allotted to them, and they can still get that consistent educational format with teachers they've known growing up with in the school or in the community, and with similar students that they've spent time with, and that can be a huge benefit. So it's definitely something we need to work more towards when addressing strong families, and not use school districts and not use kids as a football getting kicked between parents in their disputes, and jerk between school districts because of different things. So I would love to see more of that, more of those opportunities expanded and held on to in the months, years, and decades to come.
Okay, well, definitely thank you for that. I know there's been a few states, not Iowa, and I couldn't quote you as to where. I want to say Ohio, that has done some pilot programs to try and do some of these things already before COVID, of having the 2 hours away or whatever, that would have the set curriculum for those ones going back and forth. And you would think that if we've learned we can be flexible on some of these other issues, that we should not use education as an excuse from depriving parents, children of a parent, that we should use it as a way to improve and to adapt and to be flexible to the individual needs of that child, to make a co-parenting relationship work so they do continue to have those strong family root values. So I'm on my last couple questions here. And now, when dealing with a driver's or license or professional license, we could talk for hours about child support. We're not going to go into that. But if you are behind on child support, then currently you can lose your driver's license or your professional license. Do you feel that that is a good deterrent, that that is working well, or do you feel that that is actually causing many more systemic problems? And what would you do to change that?
Yeah, I can see issues that might come up with holding back a license, a professional, a driver's license. At the same time, it is really important that we are supporting. These kids are in the world because of us. It's important that we are being responsible and contributing to them, to their future, financially, whatever resources that is that that is due to them. So, yeah, if I'd love to look at the statistics, but if that is a system that has been working well or consistently, obviously nothing is 100% in life and societies. But it's something that has shown that it's holding people accountable. Then we need to continue it. We need to review ways to make it better. If it's something that's spotty and consistent, if it's showing issues with people being able to access job opportunity, work opportunities, and if it's showing issues for people being able to show up to court dates or court ordered different things, and we can interview them and find out that they're having different troubles when it comes to paying, then we need to be able to take that into account and think, is this helping or harming the situation more?
Okay. And I think that there is research on both sides that would show and support both sides. It's a matter of weighing in of, are we deterring enough, or are we causing more problems at the same time by taking away that ability to work? And again, everybody's their own individual. Were they willfully not paying, or did they have an accident or a health reason that they were unable to work for a couple weeks, or were they laid off because of COVID? That was a big one, that many people did suffer because they lost the job and were not able to pay, and all of a sudden now they have their license suspended when they may have just got their job back from their layoff, or got a new job, or still looking for a job. How do we continue to pay? So I'm glad to know you're at least open to looking at all sides and exploring the options and trying to find those right paths. So I have just one real question. The rest is going to be about you. But what importance do you feel a stable family environment has on other facets of society, such as the environment, the economy, foreign policy, etc.?
In my mind, it's the top importance. Even single people who are single or married without kids, it's something that affects their lives every day. So much of our tax dollars goes to that kind of family support, whether it's through education, through economic strength. We want to have strong families that are supported together, have the opportunities they need to provide for our future. These parents, these single parents, multi-parents, guardians, extended family members wanting to care for our future, they will help influence. We can't leave it to government to create a parenting guideline that all parents, every form, every style is supposed to follow. It's not government's job to do that. It's the biological and the adoptive or situational parents' job to care for these individuals. So we need to make sure that our communities, towns, cities, counties, states, country, and encouraging other countries to support kids, to support families in any way possible. It doesn't mean just throwing money at them, but it means making sure that they have every chance they can to have what they need. And I alluded to earlier, every family needs something different. Some families have great financial resources, and the kids have great opportunities, and they're happy with a pool in the backyard and the trampoline. Some families, they just want a parent to come home before 8 p.m. to kiss them goodnight and tuck them in and maybe read them a story, and they feel the most loved in the world. So we need to have societies that understand the importance of supporting families and all the different styles they come in, and being there for them, and not just counting them as a statistic or a tax deductible thing that makes them a political talking point, because these are real people and real kids we're dealing with.
Amen. 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 I'm going to share one quick segment here. I've done it a couple times, and sometimes people can hear it and sometimes they can't. So if you cannot hear it, then I apologize, but this is just, I would like to just say it's a random child, but no, this is me and my son talking. I was taking him to a basketball practice, and he had a, these were his comments, and I'm going to try and get this up to where it will play correctly, where you can hear it if I can. If not, again, it's this isn't no trickery, nothing. When we give this to you to for social media, we're not throwing anything on there. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. It's only a couple minutes here, so. Okay, now what was that you said?
Why can't all families go back and forth every weekend like we do? Well, that guy was speeding, wasn't he?
Yep.
We do back and forth to mom's to his house, unless their parents aren't divorced.
So you think that it works better like that?
If they go back and forth like that.
You think that works better if they go back and forth and spend equal time with mom and dad?
Yeah, unless they're not divorced.
What about when they get to see mom or dad on the weekend instead?
What?
What if they get to see mom and dad on the weekend, but they go to school?
What do you mean?
If we just saw each other on Saturday, Sundays, and then you were with mom for the whole school week.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, why would they do that?
Well, that's what a lot of them do.
That's bogus.
That's bogus?
Yeah,
Why is that bogus?
because the mom wouldn't get to see them on the weekends and do stuff with them, and then the dad, he would only get 2 days with them, and yeah.
And you don't think that's enough time?
Yeah.
No? And so you think everybody should do week on, week off or something where it's equal more and they help each other out? Okay, so what if mom or dad lives a couple hours away? Then what? You don't know then? I don't either. What if...
Then, we switch every month.
Once a month? Okay. But you still want to have equal time with both mom and dad, even if they live a long time away? Yeah? Okay. What if, by chance, one of the mom or dad was kind of a more fun? And you just got to do more things. Like, you went to, every time you went to mom's place, you got to go to Disneyland or something fun like that. Would you want to go to mom's place more or still see dad just as much?
Still see that.
Still see dad? Wow. That's pretty awesome. And you think everybody should have it like that too?
Yeah.
Yeah? I do too.
If somebody picked Disneyland over seeing their mom, they're messed up.
That's what I think too. I'm glad that you like having time with both mom and dad. And I'm glad you think that others should have it that way too, because then you know why I work so hard. Okay, so I have a feeling that you weren't able to hear that, so I'm going to shut that down, but I will put it into, sorry, so I had a feeling you weren't able to hear that, but I'll go ahead and I'll put that into the actual video when I share it. It was just my son who was, we're riding a basketball and just randomly, he's like, I wish all children that had a split family got to have equal time with both parents. And so I just kind of grabbed the camera and I let it face the door as he talks. And he's 12 now. He was 11 at the time, but he could not really understand even at that age and all that the conversations of why to him their parent, the kids want the mom and dad no matter where they're at, when they're at, and it was simple. And he was very upset that other children were having to face that, knowing that they didn't get to know both parents. So I was just kind of playing that. I wish I would have been able to let you hear it better. I'll get it in on the other one. No response real needed, but I think it affects, touches real good on the issues that you were talking about, especially from that outside, that child perspective, the individual needs and the child perspective. So with that, I'm going to be done with the interview for tonight. We've asked all the pertinent questions, but I do have just a couple other things. Now, again, we have the website of Sewell, which is SEWELLFORIOWA.com is the website to best get a hold of you, correct? Okay. Now, we're within the last 2 weeks here, final push. What, again, we do not endorse, but for those who are looking to get involved with your campaign, want to know more about you, what are you most in need of? Funds, volunteer, exposures? What are you most in need of with your campaign?
Yeah, and I'll try and make it quick, but I would like to touch on the premise of the video. I couldn't hear it, but what you summarized and, just that innocence and that perspective of kids. I mentioned earlier, you have to be careful because kids can tell stories, or maybe they don't have the whole view and experience. But at the same time, it's that same idea where kids see things that adults have too much experience and understanding, that they lose a lot of what is real and true about life. I've seen kids forgive in the what seemingly most impossible situations that adults are unable to forgive in those situations anymore. I've seen kids love in those very same exact situations. So there's so much truth you get from kids too. It's another reason I love working with them, because they have that limited experience that allows them to see a lot of the good still in the world, that our experiences growing through and jobs and things going on in the election now at the national level, that we roll our eyes at and we get frustrated at. Kids, they see.
Oh, we got you froze again here. Hopefully you're gonna come back with us.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are. I can hear you.
Okay, all right, I'll wrap it up. Apparently my internet wants me to. About how kids see so many good things, so many good in life that we have trouble seeing anymore. So at the same time, we need to listen to their perspectives in many ways. But in regards to help, spreading the word is a huge help. Just if you know someone in the district, if you want to help, drop literature, knock doors, that's a huge help. If you have financial means of any sort, $5, $10 more, any amount of helps, any amount of time, any amount of resources helps.
And of course, he's in District 42 asking for your vote. Again, that is Aaron Sewell at Sewell I want to make sure I got this right here. SEWELLFORIOWA, Sewell for Iowa .com. If you wish to learn more about him, to donate, to get involved in any way, shape, or form, you can also then go to get involved with our organization. Where'd my screen go? Okay, we are Families United Action Network, and we go by FAWN. You can find us at familiesunite.org. Currently, if you go up to this part right here, it has our 2020 legislative recommendations. We have several, and we're going to be updating those in the next couple months for our 2021. But any one of those that you click on, it's going to give you more information of who the bill affects, who supports it, who's against it, what the verbiage is, what the problem is that we're trying to change. So lots of information there. You can get a hold of us here. You can volunteer. You can donate, all right here again at familiesunite.org. Aaron, again, we thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, and I'm glad that the baby stayed asleep for us both there. That's again Sewell for Iowa at SewellForIowa.com, and you can find more out about us at familiesunite.org. So to give you the last word, what final comments would you have, whether it be about family law reform, what you need as a campaign, or just what your overall goal is? The last word is yours here, Aaron, and thank you again.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for having me. I want to thank you for hanging in there through the network drops and through the my phone almost died at one point, which is why I shifted positions to plug it in, and there was some gnats around the very end while that video was playing that was just up in my face. So through all of that, I appreciate you having me and giving me this opportunity to share my perspective, and I appreciate learning more about this organization since you first introduced it to me back in the pandemic, the big shutdown days. I'm always trying to learn others' perspectives. What are things I need to understand better and continue to understand better and learn about, so I can serve people best? That's the whole reason I'm running, is to serve people. A lot of candidates say, I'm bipartisan, or I'll work with anyone, and then later on they're trying to push blue districts and red districts. I never, in any of my rhetoric, I'm not pushing blue or red districts. I'm trying to push people first, trying to serve people, trying to learn about people and their individual challenges and experiences, and trying to love people as much as I can. So I really appreciate being here. We're going to share that perspective, and regardless of what happens, I still want to serve as many people as I can come the rest of the end of this year and 2021. So thank you.
Well, very admirable, and we thank you very much for stepping up and for not looking at us as a red or blue, but looking at us as people. We thank you. We appreciate you, especially on a year like this when it is a unprecedented year of more problems than ever, and we need leadership and to have the bravery to step up during that time. We thank you, we appreciate you, and same with you at home who are watching. We thank you, we appreciate you, we love you all, and we again, that is Aaron Sewell, District 42 in the Iowa House, and that is Sewell for Iowa .com, and you can find more out about us at familiesunite.org. So again, Aaron, thank you very much, and everybody, thank you at home. We appreciate you, love you, and good night. Thank you.